Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be ranking some of my personal favourite helmets, sort of in a tier list. These aren't necessarily going to be 100% perfectly in order, but sort of the bottom two and the top three are where they would sit. But sort of in the middle it's going to be a little bit more, not quite accurate, I guess you could say. But anyway, let's get on with it, and let's start with my 10th pick, which I actually have right here, which is the Roman Gaelic. Now, I quite like the Roman Gaelic, but it's not necessarily the most aesthetically pleasing, I guess, helmet. I do personally quite like it, and there's some that were a little bit more fancy. Some of them had some like red gems. But just overall, the helmet itself, it's an alright helmet. I quite like it, but it's not anything necessarily I'd rave about. Now next we have the Viking helmet. Forgive me if I pronounce any of these wrong, if not a Viking expert or a Norseman expert. I just personally quite like mainly the opticals. I like that shape. And I just quite like it. I especially like them when they have the built-in like aventails. I just overall think that this is quite a nice helmet to look at, and I do prefer it to the Roman Gaelic. Now next we have a Greek helmet, which is the Illyrian helmet, which I used to not like, and looking at this picture here anyway, I actually really quite like that shape, and even though it's quite a simple helmet, there's just something about it that I quite enjoy. And originally I had ranked the Yeomanbu helmet higher than this one, but upon sort of looking at them all again, I actually do really quite enjoy the Illyrian helmet. I unfortunately don't own one. The only Greek helmets I own are Corinthian helmets, as of this time anyway. But yeah, overall I just think a really solid helmet. I'm trying to balance it, like, I'm not trying to choose necessarily the most fancy helmets. Personally, I don't necessarily like the fanciest of helmets. But yeah, I think it's an overall really nice helmet to look at, and I personally quite like it a lot. Now next we have the Sugarloaf or conical great helm, which I do have an example here, but it's not necessarily the nicest of examples. I just personally really quite like great helms, and the conical shape isn't my favourite, but there's just something about the great helm that I personally really like. I don't necessarily know what it is, but I think that they're really cool helmets. I'm a personal fan of more of the earlier great helms, not the 14th, 15th century, which were worn over other helmets. I like the sort of standalone great helms. But yeah, overall I just think it's quite a solid helmet. I personally really like the look of it, why it's on this list. But yeah, I think there's something about great helms that I personally really like. And the conical great helm, though I prefer the flat top, I do still quite like the conical version. So next we have another Greek helmet, the Chalcedon or Chalcedon helm. I never actually, a little bit like the Illyrian helmet, never really warmed to this helmet until I was sort of making this list, and I do really quite like it actually. I used to find that sort of the more circular cheek guards were a little bit weird, and they do resemble sort of earlier archaic Corinthians as well. But I personally just really think that it's a really cool shape, and I think it's one thing that I really just like about Greek helmets in general. The Pylos helmet, not so much, but I really like their sort of curved shapes, which is funnily enough a little bit different to great helms, which are very much more boxy. But I just really like the look of this helmet, and that's why it's on this list. Now next we have a Vendel helmet. Now I actually do really, really like these helmets, and this is probably the most decorative type, probably I would say one of the most commonly depicted decorative types on this list. Now again, very resemblant to the later Yeomanbu helmet, but this is from the Vendel period, why it's called a Vendel helmet. So lots of people depict Vikings, or Norsemen more correctly, with these helmets, but technically the Viking age was actually after this helmet was used. But again, I really like male aventails on these helmets, and this example I think looks really cool. And as I said earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of highly decorated helmets, but I think that on this, for whatever reason, I think it works, and I think it looks really cool. Now next we have another medieval helmet, the close helm or armet. Now I find that these two look very similar, and mainly it's how the visor and the helmet sort of put on that sort of differentiates them both, so I'm just sort of including them on the same close helm / armet. I don't know, I really like these helmets, especially I like English close helms a lot, which is what this one is. I very much like sort of the I guess visor coming forward. I think it's a very cool helmet. I really like the look of it. So sort of a trend going on this list. Right, now this is sort of my top 3, and this is coming off with the flat top great helm. I really like the flat top great helms, though they weren't necessarily as effective as the Sugarloaf. There's something that I just find so characteristic and really intriguing, and I personally find the way that it's sort of a decorated bucket, but I think that is really a nice helmet, and a really, I guess typical 11th, 12th century helmet, typically depicted as well during the Crusades and the Knights Templar. And I do really just think that the boxy shape is cooler than the conical shape of the conical great helm, and I do just really like this helmet. Now, my second favourite helmet of all time is the bassinet, more specifically the Pigfaced Bassinet. I unfortunately do not own one of these, and I really want to at some point. Lots of people think that these things are really ugly. There's something about them that I just absolutely love, and I don't really know why. I mean, I absolutely love pigs and guinea pigs, so that's possibly why, but it doesn't really resemble them too much. There's just something about these helmets that I really like. I also like great bassinets, same pig-faced visor. There's something about it I absolutely love, and in the future, when I hopefully start to collect some 15th century, which is my favourite medieval period, armour, I really want to get a pig-faced bassinet or pig-faced great bassinet. There's just something that's so weird about the shape, but I really love it, and I think these are sort of helmets where you're like, what the heck is that? Or you really like the shape. I just really like these shapes, and the eye holes being slim, the beaks almost, like the little snouts on the helmets. I find them really cool, and I personally really like the helmet. And I used to sort of, again, with lots of helmets on this list, used to sort of be, when I first saw them, that's a weird helmet, but then when I actually look at them, I really start to like them, and this is my second favourite helmet of all time. And number 1, I'm guessing you've probably guessed it if you're a long-time viewer of my channel, is going to be the Corinthian Helmet. So this is my personal favourite type of Corinthian helmet. It's an earlier stage, around 500 to about 480-ish, around there. Has enclosed ear, and I personally really like sideways crests, and I did a video dedicated to the crests on ancient Greek helmets. I'll put a link up there or in the description if you're interested in that. Now, I think the Corinthian helmet, many people really like this helmet. And even when you look at the Italian barbuta or barboot helmet, there's a style called the Corinthian barboot, and you can sort of see lots of medieval stuff incorporate Greek, obviously lots of earlier Roman and Alexander the Great and Macedonian, very much Greek throughout the Mediterranean. And even when the Greeks sort of moved on from the Corinthian helmet, they depicted their heroes and stuff wearing them still. And I think it's because most people can agree it's a really freaking cool looking helmet. Whether it's the most effective helmet, no. And perhaps I'll do a video on that at some point, the most effective helmets in history. But this helmet, historically they were bronze. My one's brass, but modern bronze is different to ancient bronze anyway, so I'm not a big sort of, you have to make your armour out of the same material as they would have in the ancient times, because our bronze is different to bronze in Laconia, for instance. So brass is good enough for me, as it's also significantly cheaper. But anyway, I love the eyes. Like, there's something about that shape that I just really like. The crests, I like the helmet without crests, but for me, and many, like pretty much every Greek helmet would have crests. But I love sideways crests, and there's just the eyes and the nose piece and the cheeks being like that. I really, really, really like. Some of the later styles were a little bit more open, and obviously they would have opened up ears, and that's sort of our biggest way of telling whether it was an earlier or a later style Corinthian helmet. And I do also like archaic style, which are a little bit more like the Chalcedon, but they're sort of a little bit more open, and they don't have this very defined ridge. I just personally love the helmet. It's sort of difficult to sort of say why. I just think it looks really, really nice. All the curved edges and like the ridge, like the rim and everything. I just think that it's a really nice helmet. And I think it will always stay my favourite helmet, really. Do you agree with my picks? If you do, and if you don't, please leave a comment telling me what your personal favourite helmet is. Now, in this video, I didn't try to pick my specific favourite helmets of all time. I'm sort of trying to pick sort of the bracket of Pigfaced Bassinets, Corinthian helmets, Roman Gaelics. I'm not trying to go through museums and pick, for instance, the Wallace collection bassinet. I'm sort of trying to do a little bit more of a generalisation of my overall favourite helmets in this category. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'll put another video up just after I'm gone. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.